Engage.
Ladies and gentlemen, YouTube have finally done it. Visible public dislikes on channels will be going away.
First and foremost, let's talk dislikes. You may have seen last week YouTube's announcement that it will be making the dislike count private. If you want to learn more about this topic, we'll leave a link in the description to a video that Matt has done on this topic.
Oh, you bet we're going to be looking at that video by Matt Koval right now.
Hey folks, you may have seen a while back that YouTube announced it was experimenting with making dislike counts private to only the creator of the video.
Indeed, I seem to remember making a video about that back in April when there was an article on Creator Insider regarding.
Now, if you're like me, you were surprised by that. I mean, I've always thought seeing the number of dislikes on a video helps us know as viewers if it's a good video or not.
Yes, likes and dislikes in comparison with each other are generally quite good for telling if a video is a good video or not. And also, from my own point of view, when it comes to things like tutorials, showing how good the tutorial is for doing things.
If it's a helpful tutorial or not.
Well, Matt, I'm glad we view that the same way.
Or if what a creator is saying in their video is generally agreed with or not.
In the commentary sphere, it's generally quite good to see those opinions in the like and dislike format, to see how many people agree with things that a spicy creator might have to say when it comes to their hot takes.
But unfortunately, research teams at YouTube have found there's this whole other use for disliking a video that I had never experienced as a creator, and you may not have either.
I presume he's getting into the field of dislike mobs. Yes, I have experienced them. And I've also experienced a massive spike in revenue because of them, because they get subjected to advertising when they're leaving their dislikes. Thanks for buying me a beer, guys.
Apparently, groups of viewers are targeting a video's dislike button to drive up the count, turning it into something like a game with a visible scoreboard.
Yeah, it's just idiots trolls with nothing better to do with their time, but when they're hitting me, it makes me happy to know that I'm wasting the time of an idiot troll. There's nothing better than that feeling of knowing that you're living rent-free inside of a troll's head.
And it's usually just because they don't like the creator or what they stand for.
Well, I mean, isn't that the standard story of a person on a platform building a community? One does not simply get to thousands of subscribers without making a few enemies along the way. It's all about the friends we make along the way, but sometimes the enemies are fun to laugh at as well.
It's at best!
That's a big problem when half of YouTube's mission is to give everyone a voice. So earlier in 2021, YouTube experimented with making the public dislike count private to see if it would help reduce these coordinated dislike attacks across the platform.
YouTube enforced this change on people. I would prefer an option where I could opt in to keep my dislikes as opposed to just having them taken away from me. My public-facing dislikes. That being said, I could always just publish a monthly report regarding my channel dislikes.
And after analysis, they did see a reduction. So, the update from YouTube is that the dislike button is staying, but the dislike counts will now be private.
Which sounds like an absolute and utter bonkers thing to do.
You can still dislike videos, and that action will be used to tune your own recommendations, but you won't be able to see the dislike count.
In a creator ecosystem like YouTube, which is full of user-generated content, and let's be honest, there's a lot of chaff, guff, gunk content that is absolutely creatively worthless on this platform. And now, the only way that you really had to judge that a dislike counter is no longer going to be there. You'd have to trawl through a comment section essentially to work out if a video was good or bad. And this sounds like an exercise in wasting a viewer's time, ladies and gentlemen. But then maybe we've just discovered YouTube's modus operandi here, their reason for removing the dislike counter. Instead of simply going onto a video to look at the dislikes, you will then be going onto a video to read through the comments section, all the while the video plays in the background. YouTube is keeping bums in seats and eyes on screens for longer by removing the dislike counter.
Only the creator can find it on the back end if they want.
Basically, what Matt's saying here is that they've taken the dislike counter and they've hidden it beneath screens and screens and screens of analytics. Good luck finding it if you want to see it.
Now, a few common questions we saw from the initial experiment. First, without a public dislike count, how can viewers tell if a video is worth watching? Again, I kind of had this question too, but it turns out that while viewers might use the dislike count to give them a sense of a video's worth, when the teams looked at the data across millions of viewers and videos in the experiment, they didn't see a noticeable difference in viewership, regardless of whether they could see the dislike count or not.
Basically, what you're saying is the analytical equivalent of people watching a car crash. It's probably not a nice thing to watch, but people just can't keep their eyes off of it.
In other words, it didn't really matter if a video had a lot of dislikes or not, they still watched.
I think it would have been far more valuable and interesting if Mr. Koval had shown us some of the statistics from that. But I'm guessing that's just going to be YouTube analytical data that's not going to be shared with anyone.
Next common question. If creators can still see the dislike count on the back end, how's that any different? They can see it if they look for it inside Studio Analytics under the Engagement tab. But overall, it's much less likely to cause stress and embarrassment if the count isn't visible to the public.
I mean, I get what he's saying about, like, dislikes being invisible to the public and people feeling stress and embarrassment about things. But the fact is, you're uploading random stuff to a website. And let's be honest, there's a lot of rubbish on this platform. You should be held accountable for those actions. You shouldn't be just entirely praised all the time. That's not growing. That's not helping people to make better content. If anything, the removal of the dislike bar will only make content start to stagnate as newer creators come onto the platform. I don't think we should be coating creators in cotton wool. Yeah, bullying and stuff, that's not good. No matter what Lord of Patriarchy says.
Yeah, maybe we should start bringing bullying back. It seems to make people a lot tougher.
But it's more that if someone is on this platform building a following, they should have that mental preparation. They should be psychologically prepared for just the sheer amount of stuff that this platform throws at you when it comes to the social effects of the person on the other end of the screen watching what I'm putting into my camera and into my microphone.
If you can't take a little bloody nose, maybe you ought to go back home and crawl under your bed. It's not safe out here. It's wondrous, with treasures to satiate desires both subtle and gross. But it's not for the timid.
And one more common question, is this because YouTube Rewind got lots of dislikes?
YouTube Rewind 2018. 3 million likes, 20 million dislikes. YouTube Rewind 2019. 3 million likes, 9 million dislikes.
Okay.
No. Although there are some teams internally who have learned the hard way what it feels like to get lots of dislikes. Now, this again is about protecting all creators and making sure they have a chance to succeed and feel safe in doing so.
Safe from the mean old Wi-Fi signals of the internet.
All right, so that's the update. I hope it doesn't cause too much frustration. Honestly, I think you're going to get used to it pretty quickly.
Well, we're going to have to get used to it pretty quickly, Matt. It's not a choice, it's just another thing that YouTube has forced upon us without our consent.
And keep in mind, other platforms don't even have a dislike button.
That's weasel words. That's like saying other people don't give you a freedom that we give you, so we're taking that freedom away from you. That's a dangerous precedent to be setting.
So, consider that. Thank you, and I hope you're well.
Well, thank you for hoping that I'm well, at least. As you can imagine, ladies and gentlemen, this news generally went down about as well as the Hindenburg went down. A lot of YouTubers talking out against it, including the likes of Pewdiepie and Kavos. But as well as that, one of the original founders of YouTube, Mr. Jawed Karim, who has the prestigious honour of having one of the first videos on the platform, Me at the Zoo, he took to the description of his first video, and he wrote this. Watching Matt Koval's announcement about the removal of dislikes, I thought something was off. The spoken words did not match the eyes. The video reminded me of an interview Admiral Jeremiah Denton gave in 1966. I've never seen a less enthusiastic, more reluctant announcement of something that is supposed to be great. Admiral Jeremiah Denton was held as a prisoner of war in Vietnam. The interview in question specifically, he's telling the cameras that he's being well treated, given food and medical treatment whenever he needs it, all the while blinking in Morse code, blinking out the letters that spell the word torture. Calling the removal of dislikes a good thing for creators cannot be done without conflict by someone holding the title of YouTube Creator Liaison. We know this because there exists not a single YouTube creator who thinks removing dislikes is a good idea, for YouTube or for creators. Why would YouTube make this universally disliked change? There is a reason, but it's not a good one, and not one that will be publicly disclosed. Instead, there will be references to various studies that apparently contradict the common sense of every YouTuber. The ability to easily and quickly identify bad content is an essential feature of a user-generated content platform. Why? Because not all user-generated content is good. It can't be. In fact, most of it is not good. And that's okay. The idea was never that all content is good. The idea was, however, that among the flood of content there are great creations waiting to be exposed. And for that to happen, the stuff that's not great has to fall by the wayside as quickly as possible. The process works, and there's a name for it. The wisdom of the crowds. The process breaks when the platform interferes with it. Then the platform invariably declines. Does YouTube want to become a place where everything is mediocre? Because nothing can be great if nothing is bad. In business, there's only one thing more important than make it better, and that's don't fuck it up. Ladies and gentlemen, in reading that, I feel that my own thoughts and feelings very much echo what this man had to say. And I think, shown in my reactions to Matt Koval's video, that's eerily similar, ladies and gentlemen. Following on from the announced removal of dislikes being visible on the platform, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of YouTubers have spoken about different ideas, ways to have their comment sections get more involved in creating a substitute for the process. An interesting one that I'd heard was a pinned comment on a video saying, dislike this comment to dislike the video, essentially. However, I think an interesting protest comes from my friend, thetristanfrantz, who had this to say about the matter.
Since YouTube wants to weaponize their corporate power and punish the creator base, I'm going to make a bold statement. In protest to the decision, as of January 1st, 2022, I will be disabling ratings on this channel. I'm not going to make a video with the implication that the other side isn't being heard out. I want people to know that they have freedom of thought and expression and of speech. Of course I allow it, knowing that I run the risk of brigade trolls that act like Post Malone is the best white rapper since Eminem coming on here and bombarding my shit, but I'm not going to measure a fucking thing if a single side of the argument doesn't have a platform. And maybe I should have done this long ago with there being a lack of a neutral button, but whatever. As of January 1st, an indefinite protest begins against YouTube's decision to eradicate dissenting opinions in its rating system. You want a platform? It is in the comments section. Give me a thumbs up emoji or a thumbs down emoji or whatever works for you. Send me a shark emoji if that's what you want to do.
Whilst removing from your own channel, removing the likes does sound like a very extreme option. He does have a very strong point, ladies and gentlemen. What is the point in only allowing one side to have that visibility? It is actually better just to have everything invisible or everything visible. There is no middle ground, and I'll admit that I'm seriously considering perhaps joining him in this protest. But I don't know. I haven't made a decision on that yet, but I will towards the end of next month, which I will vocally make a video about, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, I have other videos on my channel. Feel free to give them a watch, and feel free to dislike as much as you want to. I don't mind looking at my dislike counts and seeing them. Feel free to use that button, even if it's not truly visible to you. And I'll catch you next time. See ya.
Disengage.